share some wonderful information with you. My name is Jessica Pouillet. I'm with Breakout here in Nashville. We are a full-service recruiting firm. We partner with many EO businesses to help them find excellent talent. We offer services in IT, healthcare, administrative support, accounting, finance, you name it, and we have 32 offices nationwide. So if your company is ready to find some excellent talent, please give us a call. We would love to help you think through and execute that. If you're like me, you have many responsibilities, and one of mine is business development. And there have been more than a few times that I have had difficulty getting in the door to the decision maker because of great gatekeepers or otherwise. So if that's true of you, you're in for a treat because Karen Kopp is the chief door opener at Kopp Consulting. Her services have helped thousands of business owners and salespeople secure that initial meeting with high-reaching, difficult to get in front of decision makers in almost every major company. That list includes P&G, Pfizer, Merck, Verizon, AT&T, Time Warner, Kraft, Target, and the list goes on. Karen's a nationally recognized speaker, and she's an expert in business development. She's been quoted in Fortune, Forbes, Newsweek, and she's a faculty member of Gazelle's Growth Institute. Just last year, her company was named Sales Outsourcing Provider of the Year. She truly believes that the underdog company deserves a seat at the prospects table. She's going to show us how to get there.
And Carl's as well.
You're also going to hear from Carl Gould. He's an authority on business growth who advises organizations how to take it to the next level. He's an entrepreneur who built 3 multi-million-dollar businesses by the age 40. He's also advised over 5,000 companies and helped them launch. He's advised over 100 of the Inc. 500 and Inc. 5,000 companies, and he currently works with the 9th fastest growing company in New Jersey, where, by the way, he and Karen are both EO members. Each week, he hosts Quit and Get Rich on iHeartRadio. His methodologies are in practice in over 35 countries, and they are here to share all of their secrets with you. So please welcome Karen and Carl.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, very good. Well, Thomas Edison said that success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. He was wrong. All the perspiration in the world is not going to do you a bit of good if you're not doing things right. Carl and I wrote this book because we wanted to point out the blind spots in the sales process that the business owners, the sales managers, and the sellers just couldn't see. And if you can't see it, how are you supposed to fix it? We were tired of hearing our EO friends complain to us that they weren't getting all the sales they deserve. Some were losing tens of thousands of dollars, and some were losing millions of dollars in sales. And it didn't have to be that way. When you walk out of here today, you're going to know what the blind spots are in one of the most difficult parts of the business development process, which is getting in the door with prospects. And then Carl is going to take you through how to double your revenue without any extra work, and also increasing your profit by 10%. And he's going to do that while he has one hand tied behind his back. Because that's Carl, if you know him. All right, everybody should have couple pieces of paper. You should have an orange piece of paper and a blue piece of paper and a piece of paper for notes. You could take notes on your blind spots and take notes on what Carl's going to talk about later. But for right now, what I want you to do is stand up and hold one piece of paper in each hand. Now I want you to crumple them both. Yes, we are going to throw paper this morning. We have approval to do this. It's going to feel just like third grade. Not yet. This is not a class on how to take instructions. This is business development. Okay. The orange piece of paper in one hand, on the count of 3, you're going to throw it. 1, 2, 3. When I spoke for EO Reno, they all threw their paper at me. I only got a couple this time. Okay, now raise your hand if your piece of paper hit any one of the walls in the room. No hands. Why not? Sorry? I didn't tell you to. Yes, why not?
I was aiming at her.
You're aiming at her. You weren't aiming for the wall. You were focused on me. Good choice.
Inside the box.
Inside the box. Okay, we're going to do this again. Take the second piece of paper in your hand. Okay, now I'm going to change up the instructions. As the leader in the room, I'm telling you, you must hit one of the walls in the room, even if that means you have to do something different than you did before in order to be successful. You may have to move your body, you may have to throw it harder. You must be successful hitting the wall. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody sit down. Give yourselves a hand. Good job. Okay, right, show of hands. How many people hit the wall? Okay, everybody. What was different between the first and the second? Why were you successful at the first? Right, the leader in the room from the top. I told you, I gave you clear instructions that that's what you had to do to be successful. What else? How about aiming? Were you aiming for something? If you aim for a target, you are very likely to hit it. And what else? There's one more piece.
Tried harder.
You tried harder, that's a half of that, and the other half of that is you did something different than you did before. And so you were successful. And the same is true in business development. If you want different results, you're going to have to do something different. The question is, what you're going to do that's different? And we're going to cover that today. Oops. All right. Hold on, technical difficulty.
Where's your cursor?
Okay. Oh, there we go. Many people tell me that this is what it feels like when they're trying to get in with that wish list prospect. Everybody has a wish list prospect in mind. Everybody has that from yesterday. Vern talked about that. Well, this is what it feels like, people say. They feel like they're on one side of this big chasm and they need to cross to the other side. But that's not easy. And even if they got to the other side, look at that lock on that door. It's a vault. You can't get in. How are you going to do that? Well, when companies come to us and they say they want to be more successful getting in the door with prospects, we tell them that there are 5 planks to door opening success, and we're going to talk about them. The first one is the right target. Now, you may think that that's very obvious. Of course, you have to target the right people. But then why is everybody getting this one wrong? Bob is a business owner in New Jersey, and he was targeting chief operating officers. He's in the transportation industry, so that makes a lot of sense. He had 17,000 chief operating officer names in his database, and his 30 salespeople weren't getting any meetings. Bob had no idea why that was, and his salespeople didn't know either. They were so frustrated. So we're in the conference room one day, and we're talking about their message and their target, and Bob is very passionate. He stands up and he bangs his fist on the table and he says, "Damn it!" Well, he didn't actually say "damn it." I said "damn it." He said, "Damn it." We save these chief operating officers $150,000 a year. They should want to work with us. They should want to meet with us. And I said, hang on a second, because I think that's a really good message. But now, who cares about that message? Who cares about saving $150,000 a year? Is it the chief operating officer? Who is it? It's the CFO. Bob had 17,000 of the wrong names in his database. If you want to get in the right doors, you have to target the right people. Some companies have gone through a targeting exercise 5 years ago, and then they never bothered to look at their target again to say, is this the same now? But the competition changes, the market changes, and often your offering is changing. Did your target change too? Some companies go through a targeting exercise currently, and they know exactly who their target is, but then they don't take the extra couple of steps to see if the salespeople are actually prospecting those exact people. If they're not targeting the right people, then there's a lot of wasted time. And I could tell you, when we do a targeting exercise with our clients, it's usually 25% of any seller or any rainmaker's list is waste. It doesn't have to be there. Now, not all prospects were created equally. Some are going to say yes to you sooner than others. So as Vern was talking about yesterday, that laser focus, I completely agree with that. You can start with the right geographic target, and then narrow it to the right industry segment, and then narrow it to the right group of decision makers. But then you can narrow it even more than that, because if you target the people who have issues and challenges that only you can solve, they're going to want to meet with you sooner than the people who don't have those issues. I have a good example for you. We had a company that was, they did process change. And so when they were trying to get in, Accenture, Deloitte, those were their competitors. And nobody ever gets fired for hiring the market leader. Does anybody have that in their industries? Right, so nobody gets fired for that. But if you're the underdog, how are you going to get a seat at that table anyway? Well, one of the things that we decided to do was make the assumption that anybody who had previously won an award, who was a decision maker, is probably more likely to champion an underdog, because that person wants recognition. And that person is more likely to stick his neck out in order to get that recognition. And when we targeted only those people who had previously won awards, those doors opened quickly for him. Just a thought. So when you go to narrow your target, think about some of the unusual things that you could do to bring your target in. Sound good? Okay, step 2. This is the message. Now, one of the biggest blind spots when it comes to message is that most people think that the marketing message is the same as the sales message, but that's not true. These are different things. The marketing message, your value proposition, your unique selling proposition, this is meant for the masses. But the sales message is meant for one-on-one, one on a few. It's the spoken word. It's the email that gets somebody to do something, to move from one place in their thinking to another. That's the sales message. But most people don't have a sales message. They just take their marketing message and they try and stuff it into dialogue, and it doesn't work. So think about that. When you're at the buffet line and you're speaking to somebody, that person should say, "Really? You do that? I can't believe it. I can't believe I didn't meet you 6 months ago. When are we going to sit down?" And if your message is not producing that response often enough, I'm going to recommend that you go back and look at your sales language and see if it can be different. Now, language plus delivery equals outcome. It's what you say and how you say it that determines the result. The language is only one part of it. Listen to this voicemail.
This was just a little bit about myself. I work with Nashville I work with and we represent a financial services company that offers insurance and related products and services.
Okay, that is a real voicemail. Michael called me to get a meeting with me for this guy Ed Lee he works for. What is the worst part about that voicemail? What? Well, he couldn't understand it, so he doesn't enunciate. What's the worst part? Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Who cares? What else?
Pace of the message.
The pace of the message. Anybody hear the ums?
Yeah, it starts too slow.
Yeah, he leaves his phone number first. I don't care about that either. But that is not the worst part of this message. What is the worst part of this message?
No idea.
What did you say? The value proposition. No. The worst part of this message is that his boss, Ed Lee, does not know that he's out there leaving this message. Michael might have left 50 voicemails in that day, but I only got one of his, and then I formed my impression. I will never meet with him. I will never do business with poor Ed Lee, because if he cares that little about me as his prospect when he's trying to make his best impression, how is he going to do managing my money? I don't think so. Some people say to me, oh, Karen, those voicemails, that only has to do with cold calling. My business comes to me by referral, so therefore I don't need to worry about that. You have to worry about it twice as much, because if you're leaving a message for somebody who gave you a referral, that is twice as important, because your message is a direct reflection on the person who was kind enough to make that introduction for you. If you've never left yourself a voicemail and picked it up to hear how you sound, and if you've never had your salespeople leave you a message and pick it up to hear how they sound, I highly recommend that. My team of door openers, they have a minimum of 10 years experience in business development. They've all held decision maker roles in corporations, and anytime we start up a new door opener program, they have to leave their project manager a message, and one for me too, because it's that important. Language plus delivery equals outcome. One of the things I say to my people almost every week is that you only get one shot at this, so no pressure. Okay, the third plank is the right answers for objections. Now, this does not mean any answer for objection. This is the right answer for the objection. Susan is a business owner in California, and she has 3 sellers. We were doing the door opener program for them. We're getting them these meetings, but then after they went on the meetings, they were having trouble closing. I was sitting there helping her 3 sellers. 2 of them complained to me that anytime they hit a particular objection, they couldn't overcome it, and they'd lose the deal. So I'm in Chicago having breakfast at the Ritz with the 3rd one, and I'm telling her about the troubles these other 2 are having. And she said to me, that objection, that one is so easy. Anytime I get that objection, I say, and she proceeded to come out with the most unbelievable slam dunk answer. But what's the problem with that?
She's the only one that knows.
She's the only one who knows. The other 2 had no idea. So 2 out of 3 times this company faced this objection, they lost the deal, and Susan, the business owner, had no idea. Ouch. That's painful, and that's 100% correctable by having an objections manual. Raise your hand if you have an objections manual for your company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and keep your hand up if you've updated it in the last 2 months. Good, that's more than the average, so kudos to you for that, and you and Louis too. Yeah, so an objections manual is a document that houses the answers, the best answers to every objection your company faces. There are a couple quick, easy steps for you guys to put this together. Step 1 is you gather all your prospect-facing people in one room or on the phone. You make a laundry list of every objection you face, from getting in the door right through to the close. Then you collect the best answers for these objections. Now, I'll give you a tip about salespeople. Don't ask us to write anything down. Please don't do that. Tape us. Because if you ask us to speak something, we're very auditory people, it will come out different than you ask us to say it, and it'll go a lot faster. Objections can come in a lot of different formats. One of them can be just a statement, it's just a response. But one can be a success story. Think about using colorful success stories in your objections. My particular favorite is a question. I love answering an objection with a question because it really makes the prospect think. When you deliver your question, you gotta shut up. Let the prospect think. Some people are slower to process than others, and then they'll come out with the answers. And then also, visual. Some prospects are visual learners. And if you give them something in a visual format, it will answer their objection in a way that never would happen with the spoken word. So think about what situation you're in. Now, when you put this document together, you can have more than one answer for an objection. It's okay to have more than one. But now just having all the answers to the objections is 50% of the battle when it comes to the objections manual. And if you're in school, 50% is a F, right? So just doing it means nothing. The other part of it is every single person in your company who's prospect facing needs to embrace these answers and be able to come out with them in a split second to get to the next step. Just so that it won't happen that you'll have what happened to Susan. Because if you can't overcome an objection, you will never close a sale. It's that simple. So quick review, what's the first plank? Right target, second plank? Message, great. Third plank? You guys are on it. Fourth plank is the right door opener. Now you notice I didn't say right seller. I said right door opener. One of the big blind spots when it comes to door opening success is the fact that there are different kinds of salespeople out there. Everybody knows the difference between a hunter and a farmer. Farmer grows a business, a hunter finds a business. The blind spot is that within the world of hunters, there are different kinds of hunters. There are some that are great at going on the meetings and closing the sales, and there are others that are intuitively phenomenal at opening a relationship where none existed before. These are two very different kinds of people, and it is extremely rare to find one person who's equally good at both of these parts. Quick question for you. If you're in a burning building and you have to get out, who would you rather have right next to you? Matt Fleming, who is a real firefighter in the Tacoma Fire Department. He won the Medal of Valor for acts of bravery in hazardous situations. Or Randy, who loves to dress up as a firefighter on Halloween and plans to do so every year, including his high school years. Okay, everybody for Matt. That's it. Hey, come on, guys. You won a Medal of Valor. Yay! And everybody for Randy? Thanks. I always have a few in the audience who do that. Yeah, so you want the person who's going to be able to get the job done. And the same is true in business development, and the same is true in door opening. If you need to get in these difficult doors, you need somebody who knows how to get this job done. And that is a door opener. People say to me, well, how do you get these door openers? Because I've owned my company for 17 years. So we've learned a thing or two about how to hire the door openers. And I'll share a couple things with you. The first is the job description. A great job description is going to repel the wrong candidates. You want something in there that says, I'm looking for somebody who loves to create relationships from scratch. You will not get any prior relationships to work with. Must love that, embrace that. The people who are great closers and love to go on the meetings are going to pole vault over furniture to get away from a job like that. So if you need a door opener, you need the job description that's going to get you there. Also, interview questions. I'll just give you one. There are a bunch, but the one that's most important is tell me about a time when you had to create a territory from scratch. What did you do first, second, third? What were your challenges and how did you overcome them? It really helps if you know the answers to these questions. So sometimes our clients, they'll interview for attitude, they'll interview for fit, and then they'll have us interview for BS. Because, you know, salespeople, if they're worth their salt, they're going to find out what you want and they're going to tell you they could do it. And they're really, really convincing. So how do you know what's real from the BS? But if you need an opener and you hire a closer, in about 6 months you're going to want to jump out the window. Has anybody had that experience? And I've seen business owners throw money at this problem. I've seen them scream for this problem, and then I've seen them fire for this problem. What happens if you have a door closer, a good closer, but you really need an opener? Do you have to fire him? My answer is no. You don't have to fire him, but you do have to know what you're dealing with. And you have to know that if somebody really doesn't want to open these doors, or they really stink at it, it's probably not going to get any better, not with money, not with yelling. It's just not going to get any better. But what you can do is you can split apart that function. And you can have your best closer close a sale and your opener open the door. You may have somebody internally who can do that job, or you can hire out, a company like ours or a different company. But somebody once said to me, out of all the business developers in the world, there's probably only 1% of them that are really phenomenal openers. And I said, well, that's right, and they all work for me. Or there's one plank left. See, if he steps on that bridge, that whole thing is going in. He needs one plank, and that's the right execution. When you have the right execution, that door opens, and what color is inside? Green. You need glasses over there. Gold, gold. There's gold inside that door. So you want to figure out how to get that open. The right execution. Now, I could talk for days about the right execution. Is it a phone call? Is it an email? How many? What's the subject line? Talk about that for days. The biggest blind spot when it comes to execution is time. There's a direct correlation between time spent and success if you're doing this right. My son Jason, in 11th grade, hated science. And his teacher, Mr. Hazen, said to him, Jason, if you want to do well on the science test on Monday, you have got to spend time with that book over the weekend, or it's not going to happen. So on Sunday, I was watching what Jason was doing. And he played basketball, and he played video games, and he played, I don't know, there was something else he played in there too. And then at one point, I saw him with the book on the table, but it never opened. You can imagine what happened on that test, right? He didn't do well. However, the same is true in business development. If you don't spend the time, you are not going to get the results. One of the things I tell people is keep a log or a log for your salespeople over the course of 2 weeks. Then mark down all of the non-revenue generating activities that they're doing. Is there any way to remove those? People spend a lot of time answering customer questions. They spend a lot of time filling out reports that we ask them to do. But if your people are not spending time on revenue generating activities, they are not generating revenue. So figure out a way to get those off their plate and free them up so they could do what they need to do. Quick question. When do you give up? Never. You never give up. Unless you have new information that leads you to believe that this is no longer a good prospect, you never give up. In the early years, when I was on the phones for my clients, I had a meeting planning client who wanted to get in with big companies, big decision makers for all their international meetings. And we got them Shearing Plow, we got them Ventus and Sanofi, which weren't together at the time, AstraZeneca, Gilead, we got them all, but not Merck. The woman who was in charge of Merck was Beata. I had a great relationship with her. And every time I talked to her, she said what all of us want. I love my vendors. I don't need any others. Thank you so much. Don't we want that with our clients, that they wouldn't take a meeting with someone else? One day I'm sitting there and I'm going down my list and there's Beata's name. And it's 2 years into this and I'm thinking to myself, at what point do you just say enough is enough? But I'm a very methodical person, and I couldn't bring myself to skip over Beata's name. So I called her that day, and she said, Karen, I'm so glad you called. Some things have changed internally, and some things have changed with our vendors, and it's time for that meeting. So my client got that meeting, my client got that business, and when Merck and Shearing merged, they were the ones who did all the top management meetings to decide who got to keep their jobs. Had I not made that call that day, they might not have gotten that business. So hang in there is my point, because your competition probably won't. There's a big dispute about who actually said this quote, but one of them is Thomas Edison, and that is, vision without execution is hallucination. Gave you some real solid things you could do based on what your blind spots are. What are you going to do with that? So now I'm going to bring up Carl, who will tell you how to double your revenue without any work and increase your profit by 10%. Thank you.
Give Karen a hand. All right. How you guys doing?
Good. Good.
How you guys doing?
Great.
All right. So I was working with a real estate investment company some years ago, and he asked me to come to a, that would suck if we're not going to have this slide. Oh, how about that? That's all I got to say. Thank you. So I was at the, never give up. That's so cool. So I was at this conference, and I came to a conference because one of my clients was there, and he was the keynote speaker, and he was starting to talk about how he grew his business and the steps that he took. And he goes, why don't you come? I'm giving the keynote. We'll get dinner afterwards. And I was in the back of the room, just waiting, and I was sitting there like eating something, getting ready, waiting for him. And he said, well, my advisor's here. Why don't we just have him come up and explain it? And I was like, huh. And I'm looking around, and there was like, no, you're coming up. So I went to the front of the room, and I'm like, thanks, And he said, so somebody said, what did you guys do? What was the, how did you grow the business the way you did? And I said, and I was looking, actually had the sheet in my pocket, and I was looking for it, and said, well, we have these 9 steps that we follow. We set up metrics, we follow them each one, and the company, they made Inc. 5000, they were really on fire. And I was looking around, and I said, I got them somewhere, but I've got these 9 steps. And when I looked up, I'm like, oh, I got him. I looked up, everyone was like, and so I thought, all right, maybe we're on to something. All right, so here's what we, here's the steps that we use with each of our clients. This is a real scenario. And also, these are the elements of a sales funnel. Okay, now, your sales funnel might be a little different. Okay, but these elements are the same, meaning you might say, well, wait a minute, I run an e-commerce platform, so people come to my site and there's a landing page, or we have an auto load video, or I run retail. My 9 steps happen in a minute. Someone comes up, they're at the cashier, they make the decision. No matter what kind of business you have, these things happen, and they probably happen in this sequence. Some of them might bundle together. The point being is, what we want to do is decode how you sell, match them to these 9 steps, and then I want to share with you the power of 10%. Okay? So, interesting, recently, how many of you have kids? How many of you have ever been a kid? How many of you know kids? Okay, great. So this is for everybody. So recently, I get my daughter's 9 years old. 9 years old. And she ran track for the first time this year. And she says to me, the season was over, and she goes, Dad, she goes, am I good? I don't know about you, but I think all my kids are like brilliant, smart. I watch them behave and I see something totally different, but I believe them to be they play music for them, everything. And so I didn't know how to answer. And I said, well, you won. It was her first year. We wanted her to be excited about track. So I said, you could pick out your outfit, anything you want. So she picked out sneakers because they were pink. Like they weren't even like real track shoes. Like everyone was running in spikes. She had these like really nice pink things, and she wore yoga pants, and she had her cool sunglasses because she saw it on TV. And I'm like, whatever, honey, we're running track this year, And anyway, so she took second in the 100-meter dash. She took first in the 200-meter dash. I was like, you can give her a hand for that. Yeah, that's all right. So I said, well, you came in second. And she was 9 years old, running against 9, 10, 11, and 12. So she was the fastest 9 through 12-year-old in the county, right? And so I'm like, well, you won the race. She goes, yeah, but I want to run in the Olympics someday. And I was like, that's a big leap between that and the Olympics. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, honey, you want to be in the Olympics? Let's look at the 2012 London Olympics online, and we'll see how they did. And so we went on it, and I'm looking for anything to give this kid hope. And, she ran 15.6 seconds in the 100 meters. Is that fast? No. I have no idea. I don't know what to compare it to, right? And if you're a 9-year-old in Morris County, New Jersey, you're fast. Anywhere else, I can't speak for that. So I said, well, let's see what the Olympians did. If you got 10% better, where would that put you? And so thank God, I'm looking and I see, oh my God, if she took 10% off of her time, she actually would have been faster than 3 women, 100-meter sprinters in the 2012 London Olympics. Right, so I say it, and she goes, Dad, does that mean I get to run for the United States in the Olympics? I said, well, if you run, so take a second and a half off. So if she gets the 14 seconds, you could be on the Olympic team in Yemen, Afghanistan, and Micronesia. And she felt good at it. She's like, damn right I could be. I'm like, good, stick with that, kid, stick with that. 10% more, she would have finished 25th in the London Olympics. That's it. She's 9. I don't know if she's ever going to get there. She wouldn't make the U.S. team. She wouldn't, the top 4, they're world record breakers. But I was a little relieved because I'm thinking here to here is like huge. But 10% and 10%, and she's 25th in the Olympics. She wouldn't make the U.S. team, right? But she's walking around now like, yeah, I could be an Olympian someday. And she's 9. We'll see where it goes, right? But so this is the same thing. I want to show you what the power of 10% is. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you the sample funnel. I'll show you what they mean and how you can place it in your funnel. Then we're going to talk about how to be 10% better at what we do and what happens, and 10% smarter at what we do and see what happens. Would this be a good tool, by the way, to help you double your revenue?
Yeah.
So for some of you, this would not be a good tool. Would this be a good... Guys, you're taking this way too seriously, and the drinks weren't that strong last night. You want this tool? Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's have some fun with this. All right, cool. So think about it from here. So these are the elements of the sales funnel. First thing is what we call MVP planning, strategic planning, right? And your planning is to differentiate yourself, define your niche, you have the right target, as Karen said, have your ideal client, and exert your authority in the niche. Right? You don't want to be just everyone else. You want to be the person who stands out, stands above, right? So you're going to create your strategic planning so you stand apart and stand above. Right? Now, once you do that, you're going to have a marketing campaign of some sort. Now, I don't care who you are, and I don't care what business you're in. We recommend 5 simultaneous lead generation campaigns or activities at the same time. Okay? So yes, if you're an online company, that means you're like, oh, I got to get up at 7 o'clock and schlep down to that networking event. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Why? Because Google has this funny thing called updates to their algorithm, and they made a big one last year. And if you were only an online lead generation company and you got moved from first page to page 5 or 6, it's going to take you 6 months to get back up. Right? So the point being is you're going to thank me that you went to that networking meeting and somebody called and said, hey, that refrigerator magnet I got from you 3 years ago at that trade show you were at. And you're like, huh? What one was that? And they're calling you to buy from you again. So not all lead generation is created equal. Make sure you've got 5 running at any given time so you stay away from feast and famine. Make sense? Guys good? All right. Okay, next one. After marketing comes lead generation. In our terminology, lead generation simply means somebody says they're interested. All right, so if you own a car dealership, somebody just walked in the door. No one's talked to them yet. They just walked in the door, or they came to your home page, or they went to your landing page, or they clicked for the first time. Okay, we are micro-segmenting your sales funnel. You guys get that? Okay, nobody's talked to them yet. All right, and you heard that, you heard that voicemail. That would have been step 4. That would have been step 4 in our process here. So, hey, Mike, So lead gen just means somebody says, I'm interested, tell me more. Okay? Next step is conversation or offer, meaning this is the first time you're going to have a conversation with somebody and talk about your offers, your offerings, your products or service. You're not making an offer at this point. You're simply having a conversation, talking about what you sell. Make sense? You walk in the car dealership? Yes, we sell BMWs. That's all we've done so far. Okay? Now, next one is qualify. Number 5, we qualify whether or not the person fits our target market or could even purchase from them. My son is a huge fan of Corvettes. Loves them. He's 16, doesn't have his license, and has no money. So he can be a fan all you want. Porsche Magazine puts out the Porsche lifestyle. I forget what the name is. It's a magazine about the Porsche lifestyle. Guess what percentage of the people who subscribe to that magazine own a Porsche? 10. 9 out of 10 people who subscribe to that are wannabes. All right, so, what are you kidding me? I've got this great base. Yeah, you got a great base of people who are poor and can't afford your car. Excellent. Nice. Get those 4 other lead generation things going. That's why. Guys, we're so busy. Yeah, you're right, with the wrong people. So we qualify. Can you actually buy from us? Next one is transaction. Transaction means we're going to figure out what is the transaction that's most appropriate for you. Okay? So you walk into that car dealership. What car do they put in the middle of the showroom surrounded by velvet ropes with spotlights on it? What's that? The best one they've got. That's that Mercedes-Benz Mac Daddy AMG that costs $240,000. And you walk in and you're like, damn, that's a nice car. Unbelievable. I'll take that one. And you go buy the 2 Series because that's what you could really buy. They sold you on the brand, right, with their Mac Daddy AMG Big Daddy car, and then you bought that one, right? So you sell them on the brand. You know, how many of you have bought that $10,000 iWatch that they're talking about putting out, or put your name in for that? No, but it helped you buy the $400 version. That's why they did it. Oh, Apple's got a $10,000 one they're talking about? Blinged out? Great, let me get the $400 one while it's still safe. Okay? So you want to make sure that you decide on the right transaction. Now, number 7 is paperwork. Paperwork simply means the agreement. Okay? There's an exchange sum at some point. You know, there's either a credit card receipt or there's a little terms and conditions click that you have on your website, or it's a verbal contract, a handshake deal. But at some point, there's an exchange of terms and conditions, and then approval. Just because you think that, and the buyer and the seller think it's a good idea to cut a deal, it doesn't mean it happens. There's almost always a third party that has to approve the deal. Quick question. Can a car salesman sell you a car? No. Absolutely not. Wait a minute. You mean if I go in, full price offer, cash, hand him cash or a check, or her, right then and there, can they sell you the car? No. You're not sure. I'll give you the answer. They absolutely cannot. A car salesman is not authorized to sell you a car, no matter what. They are not permitted. What do? You give them the full price check or wire or whatever, and they help you fill out the application. What do they take with the paperwork? Where do they go? They go right back to the branch manager, finance manager, or business manager, who then does the approval. Okay? And then even with that, it doesn't mean all those deals close. Does that make sense? Okay? So any part of this process, you can lose the sale. If we get 100 leads, our deal is, let's do the best we can with what we've got. So let me walk you through it. Okay? Let's say you got 100 leads, okay? Just people who click through, but let's say you only retain 50, you only get into a conversation with 50% of them. All right, so some people came through the door here at the end, they were like, I'm not standing, and then they left. All right? The lead was the second you walked through the door. The conversation wasn't until we started with the presentation. Does that make sense? So you can lose some people there. Let's just say you retain 50%. You get them into a conversation. Let's say of those, your conversations go well enough, you're able to qualify, 60% of those. Let's say you do a good enough job qualifying 60%, and 80% of them, now the transaction is 25. So our 100 leads is now down to 25, right? Now, let's say you decide on the transaction, and then they read your terms and conditions. Okay, any lawyers in the room? Okay, lawyers are brilliant at this. If I had a deal that I wanted to go through, and I said to you, write the agreement so this deal never happens. Put so many minefields, you could do it, right? Absolutely, you're brilliant at it. And if I came to you and I said, listen, this is a deal I really wanted to go through, no landmines in here, let's get it through. Do you know how to write an agreement that would help close a deal? Look at them, they absolutely know. That's what they're brilliant at. So look, your contracts, don't think of them as contracts. Think of them as marketing documents. Say, we work with a lot of franchises. The franchisor, FDD, is so onerous, the person reads it, if they can even lift it, and they can barely get through it. And by the time they're done, they're like, I don't even want to talk to you anymore, right? You can write an agreement that is more friendly, all right? Think of all of your contracts, terms, and conditions. Cover your ass, just do it in a nice way, all right? So it gets through, okay? So now we're at the paperwork. Now, once they get through the terms and conditions, then the buyer and seller have to finalize all the terms and conditions. So in 1998, I bought a piece of land in New Jersey that, by buying it, I landlocked a state park. So I essentially controlled New Jersey, Kittatinny State Park. I owned the front part of that land, all on Route 206, for 90 days. So we cut this great deal. The state of New Jersey was bullying the seller. So the seller says, I'll never sell to you. I didn't know all of this. I just walked in at the right time. And so we agreed on this great term. No interest mortgage, all these terms and conditions. I take it to my attorney. I had not known he was talking to the state of New Jersey. I take it to my attorney. My attorney looks at it and goes, Carl, congratulations. That's a win. He said, what jail shall I bail the two of you out of? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you can't do half of what's in here. Now, he had to rewrite it and everything, and the deal actually went through. And then, I did not know, I didn't know the state of New Jersey was the one that he said he would never sell to. What, did I?
Did you know it was landlocked?
No, I knew the state park was landlocked.
Okay, you did know.
I knew that. I knew that by buying this, the access road to get to the park, I would now own. So I'm thinking, I get this, I got leverage against the state of New Jersey. I sold it to the state of New Jersey in 15 days. I bought it for $300,000 and sold it for $900 2 weeks later because they were landlocked. But my attorney, we had to go through the approval. What we had was an illegal deal. But he changed the terms and conditions, so we had the right kind of mortgage, the right kind of this, the right kind of that, and I owned it for about 2 weeks. So, but that was a coup at the time. All right, now, so two-thirds of those you now get to approval. Now we're down to 10, right? Now here's closing. So just because you have approval doesn't mean you close, right? There's a great YouTube video, you got to check it out, and it's 104-year-old man buys Camaro. Do you guys remember the story? It was big news in 2007. How many, if I say Camaro SS 400 horsepower rocket, you guys know what I'm talking about? They have basically this NASCAR thing with license plates on it that Chevy sells. It is a monster, 500 and something horsepower, I don't know. But anyway, some guy comes in, it's 2010. He comes in, cash for a Camaro, hands it to the salesperson. Salesperson is like, you're not going to believe this. We sold the SS. And the manager looks at it and goes, you can't sell this car. He goes, the paperwork doesn't line up. There's no way this license is right. He goes, what do you mean He goes, I checked everything. He goes, did you see the date of birth? And the guy said, I thought so. He says, it's 1906. That would make the buyer 104 years old. So either the guy's 104, which we are not selling a 500 horsepower car to, or there's a mistake. We can't. It's bad license. So the manager comes out, and actually the guy was 104 years old. And he said to the guy, listen, I cannot in good conscience sell you this car. I'm sorry. And the guy said, well, I've driven Camaros for 40-something years. And the guy's like, that's the point. You're 104. So what they did was the sales manager said, take me for a drive in the car, prove to me you can handle this thing. I don't know 30-year-olds that can handle this, let alone 104. And so the guy actually took him on a drive, and he said, yeah, he proved to me he can handle the car, I feel better, and then they sold him the car. See what I mean? So anything can get tripped up at any point. All right. So let me just share with you this math. All right. Yours is going to be different, I know. But let's say out of 100, you close 3. Your average sale is 5,000. That means you get revenue of 15,000. You good with the math? It's the only math you're going to have to do this morning. 3 times 5, 15. We good? Okay, I still see some blank stares. I'll do it again. 3 times 5.
15 grand.
What's that?
Dude, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. Now, everybody's different. You might get 1,000 leads through an online campaign that turns into 54 close. I don't know. I'm just trying to give. This is one of our actual clients. All I changed was the average sale. Okay. So there's a couple of other metrics down here if you're into that sort of thing. So you can track those. I'm not going to talk about it, but you could track them. Now, what would happen if we just did our job 10% better? Okay? So if you guys have picked up the book, this is pages 44 through 48 in the book. It's chapter 2. So 3 closes, 5,000 average sale, total revenue 15,000. So what if we just did our jobs 10% better? Look what happens. Okay, here we go. Same 100 leads. But this time, instead of that crap-ass voicemail you leave, somebody actually is eloquent on the phone, you script it, or when somebody comes into the showroom, you don't just say, can I help you? Right? We were working with a retail establishment that sells chocolates. They were a $7 million company, unprofitable, they had 5 stores. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job, guys. Let the lady carry all the heavy books in and out. Good manners.
You saw it coming.
You saw it coming. I have a blind spot. Listen, I'm holding the remote, guys. Please. So the retail store. So how many men who walk into a chocolate store know what they want to buy? None. Guess what? 1. Sorry. There are some. So we said, why don't you ask? So, how many men that go into a chocolate store are buying for themselves? Almost none, but we'll say practically none. So why don't we start with the first question? Who are we buying for today? Okay? That's just all we did was change. All we did was change the conversation, the initial conversation. Then the follow-up question, once he chose, so the two questions was, who are we buying for? What's the occasion or the event? Third question was, you're not just going to get her that, are you? Every guy knows what that means. Of course not. Of course I wasn't. I was going to get the teddy bear. Damn it, what else do I need? I don't want to blow this. I'll spend anything for the right gift, right? So they went from 7 million unprofitable to 11 million profitable in 18 months on just changing that. That's just 10% better. You follow? So we want to make each one a little bit better. Then we're going to qualify. Yes, Sean's 16-year-old, I don't think we should sell you a Corvette, right? We want to buy the right, we want to qualify. Let's say we're a little bit better at qualifying. Now we go to 55%. Yeah, 55%, we get 55 good, meaningful conversations. Then instead of closing at 60% to qualify, we go 66%, right? Then instead of 80, we're 88%. 60, we're 66. You see how this works? We get a little bit better at each way. We work our way down to the bottom. Look what happens at the bottom. You now close 5.54 instead of 3. Okay? And even at the same average transaction, you haven't even gotten any better at upselling, cross-selling, or bundling yet. We haven't even gotten into that part. You just got a little bit better at the initial steps. Look where your revenue goes. Your revenue goes 27.7. From 15 to 27.7, you're up 85%. How does that sound?
Spreadsheet works.
What's that?
Seems like the spreadsheet.
So far, so good. Okay. So now what we're doing is, so what we see as a blind spot, like Karen and I mentioned before, we're looking for blind spots, and you guys will. The problem you'll make is you'll combine too many of the steps. Right? We do a whole chapter on your message sucks. Here's why: because salespeople will show up and market to their prospects instead of selling to them. These are tiny tweaks, but think of the power of 10%. Now, okay. Any questions on this so far? You all know your sales funnel. You more than likely have salespeople who will tell you, hey, listen, I've done this for 20 years, I've done this for 5 years, or my 4 last jobs, I was able to do this. And they'll tell you, oh, no, I got this covered. I'm a big fan of scripting out the process, having the talking points, looking for the slam dunk message, as Karen calls it. Then let's document it and let's find the one best way to sell everything. If you have a sales team of 10, there's not 10 best ways. There's one best way. Let's agree on it. And then let's agree on the standard situation and then the deviations, all the objection handling, okay? All right, so now, what if so up here it just says 10% improvement. We just got 10% better at what we do. What if we got 10% smarter at what we did at the same time? So most of our clients that we meet for the first time, you're too emotionally connected to your pricing. And most of our clients have a fear of raising their prices. Okay? So take a second, write down what it is you charge for whatever it is you do. What's your average sale? What's your average transaction? What's your hourly rate? Okay? So let's say it's 1,000. Write down 1,000. Let's say you're commission-based and you get 3%. Write that number down. Now just add 10%. So instead of 3%, you get 3.3%. Instead of 1,000, you get 1,100. Does that sound like a huge number? Across the board, our experience is that we can walk into a business and you can raise your prices 10% right off the bat. So now that you've seen this, you don't need us to walk in. Just raise your prices 10%. You have my permission. Okay? All right? No one's going to notice. Oh, wait a minute. We have people that come in every single time and they order the same thing the same way every time. That's right. And those 2 people that might actually object are not going to overcome the 98% that aren't even going to notice or care.
I've got a question on your definition of conversation.
Okay.
When you mentioned it a couple times, gave examples, it's actually a verbal conversation. Are we looking at a verbal conversation or a conversation that might be electronic, not email, but more of response?
Great question. So did you guys all hear the question? Where he was asking about, Greg, is it? So Greg was asking about let's define what a conversation is. So a conversation in the car dealership is a face-to-face. But that could be someone comes onto your website and your instant chat pops up. What can I do for you today? That's not a conversation. It could be an auto-load video. That's not a conversation. Did you know 47% of people that come to our site don't know the difference? That's not a conversation. That's marketing. If you know why somebody shows up, explain it. If you're at our site, more than likely, you're here for the following reasons. Let me navigate you through those following reasons. Okay? People aren't showing up at your site for everything and anything. They come to your site for probably 2 or 3 specific reasons. Okay? So if it's instant message, or it's live chat, if it's your landing page, if it's an auto load video, if it's email or an autoresponder, I will be away on vacation from this time to this time, and so if you need immediate assistance, go to so and so at such and such, and then you should just end that email by saying, oh, by the way, and go F yourself. That's how rude that is. Go change your autoresponders, right? There's a reason people are taking the time to email you. I'm not talking about the spammers, but the people you actually care about. So that's initial conversation. It should be a conversation, okay? Does that answer your question? So it's any form of initial interaction, okay? All right, great. So any other question? Yeah, Gina?
Can you write that email differently for us?
Pardon me?
Can you write that email differently for us?
Can I write an email differently? How do you mean?
Autoresponder.
Oh, can I write the... How would you say that? Okay. So who would likely email you while you're gone? On your business email. Somebody that doesn't know you're gone. So so we're going back to ideal client here for a second. So who would likely email you while you're gone? Customer or prospect. Okay. So a prospect might be emailing you for what reason?
To inquire about your goods or services.
Information. Have they already learned about you before emailing? Like, have they been to the website and then they hit, contact us, and then they're there?
Probably.
Pardon me?
Probably.
Probably. So if they've, so now let's take that one. I've gone to the email. I've read through the email. I've read through the website. I hit the contact us page. Okay. You'll know where they go first, where they go second. So they probably went to your home page. So whatever's on the home page, we're going to talk about. Okay. Thank you for your email. If you're emailing me now, you've probably spent time on X page and may have even learned about the 3 steps or 10 things or our new catalog or whatever. I'm in Nashville at a conference learning how to service you better. Okay. In the meantime, your email is automatically being forwarded to blank, who will be back with you in X period of time. Okay. All right. In the meantime, since you've been to my homepage, just click this link and there's a free download video or a free white paper or a download of some sort that I think might answer some of the questions that people commonly have when they come to our site for the first time. And again, if so-and-so doesn't contact you immediately, the email's going to them immediately and they'll be back with you in X hours or days, whatever. And then they just click the link and there's a download that says, yeah, these are all the reasons why I came.
Current client, not a prospect.
Current client, not a prospect, will probably have your cell phone. Okay, so what you can do, now current client in your case would be whom? Like, is everybody who's a client at every level able to contact you?
No, probably not.
Right, so what type of client would email you while you're gone? Pardon me? Corporate client, and who specifically?
Amiibo, CVS, Target.
All right, so a buyer?
Nope, we provide service.
You provide what kind of service?
Landscape service.
Landscape service, so the facilities manager or someone like that? Okay, so same deal, I would put, so for somebody that has direct access to you, they probably would text you in this day and age, I would think, right? So first off, I would have separate channels set up for just them. I'm gone, here's my instant message, here's me on Skype or whatever, so they can, or WhatsApp or whatever it is, so they have direct to you if that's the way you're designing it. Now, you could also, I have a separate email for, like when I'm working with a CEO, they have a separate way to get me. That's like a direct line. You don't have to go through the other channels. There's a direct line to get me. So what I would put on that one is I would say something like, hey, jackass, you know I'm away. Why are you emailing me? Text me. I would do it with humor. because I have that relationship with the client. If it's a facilities manager, I probably wouldn't say that. Right? Right. So why would they email you while you're gone, facilities manager? Because something's gone
Wrong. Or a question.
or a question, but what would the question most likely be?
Or, like,
We need the guys to come back and do some shrubs. We need to do,
or what's going on with a code violation, or where's this property?
right. So there's a problem of some sort.
Could be.
Let's go probability, more than likely.
More than likely.
If that's the case, then have your redundancy already built in. If you're emailing me, there's probably an issue. X so-and-so has been given a copy of this. I'm going to know within the next few hours, and if they haven't handled it, I will. Hold tight, we're going to take care of you in the next 24 hours. Whatever it is. But go with the probability, guys. If your client knows you and they know you're away, they're probably going to let it go, they're just going to let it go. But if they know you're away and they're still emailing you, there's a reason why they're doing that. Does that make sense? So your highest probability shot is probably accurate. And even if it's not, they will appreciate the fact that you wrote that sort of email responder. Like, wow, you have a redundancy when you go away and you know I might email you? See what I mean? You've thought it through a little bit more. Does that answer your question? Okay, cool.
The 10% raising of the rates, what is the frequency? Can you do it every week? Or?
Okay. Good. We're going to take some more questions in a second. Let me just take this one on, and then I want to finish this up, and then Karen and I will take all the questions together. So 10% is just to get started. This is now, depending on how often you raise your rates, if you're a restaurant and you do dynamic pricing, if you raise your rates once a year, there's ways to, you'd have to look at that based on your business. I would say as often as possible. And if you're dealing with your ideal client, you could probably raise your rates more than that because they won't care about the 10%. Okay? All right, so let me move on, finish this because we're at the end of the presentation. All right, so look what happens. We just get a 10% price increase. All this stays the same. You still close 5.54. Your average sale, though, goes from 5,000 to 5,500. What happens to your revenue? It now doubled. You went from 15,000 to 30,470. You're up 103%. Now, all you did was do a price change. How much work did it take for you to do the price change? Nothing. And do you guys have meetings and training huddles now with your team? So you already have these meetings. So during those meetings, can you train them a little better on how to do these, not even 9, but these last 7 steps? So it's no extra work. And the price change goes right to profit. It goes direct to the bottom line. Does that make sense? Yeah. So take what you already have in place. If you can't identify these 9 steps in your funnel, take what you do and make it fit the 9 steps, break it down, okay? If you still can't do that, Karen and I have a gift for you. So on your sheet, you guys have one of these white ones? You didn't crumple the white one and throw it, did you? All right. So Karen and I have a gift for you. On the second page, we know that Nerve, they'll send you a link for feedback and all that. If you'd like to give us some feedback on the presentation, by all means do that. Karen and I do training and presentation, so that's number 2. If that's of any interest to you, you could fill that out. Our gift to you, though, is number 3. Number 3 is if you're looking at the 5 planks that Karen was talking about, these elements of a sales funnel, and you're trying to figure out how do you institute that in your business, anyone who comes to one of our presentations, we give a free consultation to. We normally charge $1,500 to do an analysis of your sales funnel and give you feedback. But you come here, you come to see us, we'll do it at no cost. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay, so if you have any other questions, we're going to take questions in a second. We've got just a couple minutes. Just fill it out, give it to myself or Karen, leave it up at the front, and then we'll make sure that we follow up with you. So lastly, so you see how this works. This goes straight to the bottom line. We wanted to give you guys a tool that you can work on right now that'll drive revenue right away. Okay? This goes right to profit, and it'll show you how to manage these elements. Break them down, micro segment your sales funnel, and then look for the small improvement in each one. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. So it's 12:19. We could take a couple minutes of questions. You want a couple minutes of questions, or you want to get out of here? I have a question. You got a couple questions? So hold on a second. I can answer questions pretty good. Like I'm told like I do a pretty good job of questions, but Karen is like the best. So why don't we bring Karen up here and we'll do Q&A together. Let's give it for Karen. All right.
And for Carl. Great
Well, thank
job.
you. So, questions?
Go back to this question.
Sure.
So when I look at that, I see that 70% of all your business you're losing going from approval to closing.
You could.
Well, that's with your numbers.
This number, yeah.
So I would look at that and say, I'm losing 70% of my business. Instead of working on 9 things, if I work on just that one process,
Yep.
and I can go from 3 deals to 4 deals, I almost get the same numbers you do with only working on 1 thing instead of 9.
That might be
There you
the
go.
first thing to do.
And that might be the first area. So what we're saying is, just go through the exercise of saying, how do we sell and what are the 9 steps? What are our 9 steps? And say, where do we need to spend time on? For some of our clients, it's just, we fix 1 or 2 things and it makes a huge difference. What we're saying is, you take your existing team and work on a little tiny adjustment, all of a sudden you're making a big difference. Okay, that's fair enough.
Sometimes the answer is in the minutia.
Right. James?
Micro-segmenting
Yep.
sales funnel.
Right?
Explain to me what that is.
All you're doing is, like, if you look at 4, 5, 6, those all happen kind of at the same time. You're like, well, wait a minute. I'm talking to the guy the whole time or the lady. Why am I breaking this into 3 parts to the conversation? Because as Karen said, there's more appropriate things to say at different parts of the conversation. So we're saying just break it into the smallest bit. You could segment your sales process into the smallest bit possible. So micro segment. Okay? Any other questions?
Your sales funnel, I have a lot of clients where I deepen my relationship.
Right.
Right? So I identify opportunities and then I go sell them on those opportunities and can do the 10%. So the conversation, so I'm almost at the point where I drop all the way down to qualify because I know they can buy. So would you handle that differently in terms of...
I would see, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
In terms of how you approach that sales conversation.
Okay, so do you have any other salespeople on your team?
No.
Okay. Let me just experience share. So we have a client that where the owner claimed to be the best. He said, "I'm the best salesperson here."
Well, the best.
Right. Well, you're the only one, so you're the best in your company. So you're like the man. Well, they have 2 other salespeople, and so I interviewed them separately, and I said, "So how good is Ron at selling?" He said, "Oh, he's really good, but he gives away the farm like every time. The moment somebody has an objection, he doesn't want to lose a sale, so he gives them discount after discount." And it turns out his team is actually a lot better at holding firm on the standards of the sale. And business owners oftentimes, because they know it and they have such a deep relationship, sometimes they give away too much. So all I would suggest here, what I'm hearing is, I would go back through this. You don't drop right to qualify. I would look back at what is the conversation you're having. Are you getting, Karen talks about this a lot, are you getting 100% share of sale? And a big blind spot is, wait a minute, I know my customers, I know what they want. If I were to go to your customers and I would say, and I'm sorry, sir, your name? Clay. So Clay, does Clay really ask you in depth and does he really know what you want? He's like, well, yeah, I mean, he asks a lot of questions. I said, what else would you buy from Clay if he would talk to you about it? And I bet you they would buy more from you if you changed your approach or upgraded your approach a little bit. That's all I'm saying. So you might be getting the max right now. My hunch would be, more than likely, you're not maximizing it. So I would just say, look at it. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Should probably let everybody go.
All right. So we could leave and go for lunch right now. So Karen and I will hang for a few minutes. If anyone else has any other questions, right? Well,
Yeah, we have some extra books. If you didn't choose one of ours, why not? But here they are.
we have some extra books.